Hey everybody, Quantum back here again, and in this video I want to cover what I think is going to be the most meta-relevant deck, at least as we move into the first couple of weeks of AZURITE C, and that is going to be Ruby Sapphire Control. The existing version of Blue-Red has been very strong, much more consistent than in previous iterations where it used to play upwards of 22, 24 on Inkables. Now you can play the deck very consistently. As you can see here, we're only on 15 on Inkables. You have a lot of very powerful cards in order to get to your main engine pieces, in order to see card draw, removal, you name it. Closer pieces like the Tamatoa or the Sisu. And you also got some pretty unique tools in set 6, which we're going to cover in order to help improve your matchups in certain scenarios and just make the deck even more consistent and just better overall. So the first thing I want to address is the very limited amount of songs that you're now playing in this deck. Whereas before you were playing things like How Far I'll Go and One Jump Aheads, these are cards that were uninkable. You were forced to play them or ink them with Fishbone Quill down here, and it would either set off a game plan that you wouldn't want to do, like force yourself to dump your hand or force yourself into very awkward plays. And if your opponent was on an aggro strategy, they would just power through you, and you couldn't get to your top end or your removal consistently enough in order to slow them down. Now you only need Be Prepared, in my opinion. Be Prepared is still one of the best actions in the game, one of the best songs, and if it gets ripped out of your hand with Ursula Deceiver, it's not that big of a deal because you have a new card in the Maui Half Shark that you're able to play. And while it does not have Rush, if you're able to play this in combination with something like a Vitalosphere on, let's say, turn 7, where you already have the Vitalosphere down, you play the Maui, you pay the 1 ink for the Vitalosphere, that's a total of 7. Your Maui now becomes a 9/5, I believe, and it also has Rush. Is it a 9? Yeah, it's a 9/5. So 7 plus 2 is 9, 5 willpower. Then you just crash into anything, and you can recur any action from your discard. And then if this thing survives and you're able to play the action the next turn, or even within the same turn, you just gain additional lore if you do play the action. Like this little ability here, like, it didn't even need that, to be honest. Just the fact that it can recur actions from your discard, albeit on challenge, so it's not the greatest. But if it was on play or on quest, that would have been really good. But on challenge isn't that big of a deal. And it also has evasive, so it's just like a really fantastic card overall, in my opinion. And you're recurring some very powerful cards. And going into what I was saying about the limited number of songs that you are able to play now, you don't have to kind of go all out on these uninkable songs that are a liability in more than one sense of the word, right? Because they're uninkable, they're Ursula Deceiver, fodder to be ripped, etc. You're now able to play what I can't believe they printed a card like this, honestly. Sail the AZURITE Sea. So think about it this way, right? This turn, you may put an additional card from your hand into your inkwell face down. First of all, it's ramp. That's inkable, which is insane, right? We know how good Tipo was. This card just seems, yeah, insanely broken. Not only that, though, like, it replaces itself. This card is just bananas, in my opinion. You get to ramp if you want, especially on curve. And if you draw it later, it's ink. If it's not useful at the moment, you ink it. Sure, it's not like a one jump where you're like, it's in my hand, I need a fishbone in order to ink it, or I have to just cast it. And this is not a song, so it does not get ripped with Ursula Deceiver. Like, we're starting to see the benefit of not having songs now, right? Yes, playing things for free is nice, but in a deck like this, where you're not actually utilizing singers really all that much, an action is way more useful, especially now that we have this card, Sail the AZURITE Sea, as well as the new Maui. But the fact that this card draws a card too is ridiculous. Like, we play Popsicle, and we all know how good Popsicle is because it's just an item that draws, and then it's fodder for Hiram, right? To continue to draw cards. Well, the AZURITE Sea is an action. It draws you a card, and you have the option to put a card into your inkwell. So you can draw your card first, right? And then you put it into your inkwell. It has to be an inkable card, but it can also go into your inkwell not exerted. So you can play this card, draw a card, choose to ink something that's inkable, and then play a Popsicle with that ink you just used to ink with this card. Like, it's really good. But let's just say you don't even need to use the ability to ink some more. You just want to draw a card. Well, Maui can come in, recur that card, allow you to ink and draw a card when it recurs this. I mean, to be fair, if you drop this Maui and you challenge and you bring something back for 2 costs, I'd probably say Visions of the Future is the better card, which again is just an insane interaction. Recurring Pot of Prosperities to dig 5 cards deep into your deck every time you challenge, like, it's better than card draw, right? Like, just take your pick among 5 cards. You need removal, you need Hiram, you need you know, Tamatoa, you need board wipe, like take your pick. You can also recur brawls, right? Which is kind of nice depending on the scenario. So once you just start to see any of these actions in rotation, and you know you can set up a Maui with like a Vitalosphere, even without it, just this thing sitting on board, threatening to challenge and recur actions, can be really devastating, right? And you know, it doesn't just say non-song actions. You can also recur Be Prepared with this thing, right? So if your Be Prepared gets ripped out of your hand early because you drew it as a brick, and later on in the game, you know, you're up against Emerald, and then you drop this Maui, you challenge, you know, you get back your Be Prepared, and then you're able to cast it the next turn. Or if this thing sits for a turn, right on turn 6, let's say your opponent allows you to challenge with it the next turn, you challenge with it, bring back a Be Prepared, you ink for turn, and then on 7, you just cast the Be Prepared. So like any action that you have in your discard now is a big threat with the combination of this Maui, which is quite interesting. So yeah, blue-red, the existing version, I mean, there's going to be many different ways that you can play blue-red, and I think that's great. But I think the meta-defining version, at least the way that it's going to adapt right now, is probably going to look something similar to this. I like the Queen of Hearts, so I shouldn't say similar to this because my build might be a little bit different. But I like the way that I look at blue-red is I just want to do everything I can to survive the early game because I have the best top end in the game. So I play the Queen of Hearts, take down aggro threats, right, in combination with things like Vitalosphere or even Maui's Fishhook later on, right? Getting extra value out of this thing, pumping up the strength is really good. Using 3 copies of Sisu Daring Visitor to remove non-ward characters, right, by lowering their strength with Ice Block, and then also having this set up for a shift target with Sisu later on. And same reason why I'm playing this Sisu in Bolton Warrior. A 4 toughness body is just good overall to put pressure on the opponent. You don't really care too much about the questing power, but just the fact that it's a Sisu name and can be shifted on is really good. Of course, you play Hiram. We've cut the Grandmas in order to play the Maui now, and we continue to play this Maui, the original Hero to All. But again, like you have 7 copies of Maui's in your deck now if you're running this kind of build. So like you get even more value off of something like a Fishhook, right? I don't think you want to play more than 1, to be honest. And even 1 is like, meh, do you really want to play it? But it's still a decent card even if you have to pay for the ability. But getting it for free is also really nice. Like, yeah, it's just really good, right? Giving your Sisu here +3, giving it, you know, it already has evasive to take out evasive threats. Giving this Sisu evasive, right? Giving this Queen of Hearts +3, making it a 5/2 for 2 that rushes. And if you get the ability for free, right, with Maui on board, it's really nice. And does this actually? Let me just double check here. It gives you evasive until the start of your next turn, and that can be actually kind of relevant because it can protect this Sisu from getting challenged with its 4 toughness, which is kind of underwhelming for the cost. And it can also protect your Tamatoa. Not that much is going to be challenging into a Tamatoa, but you never know. So yeah, I mean, this deck just seems to be in a really, really good spot moving into the meta. Looking at the decks that exist right now, it's hard to see something that's really going to hard counter this. Like red-purple has always given red-blue a kind of a tough matchup, but I mean, I don't know. I just think you have such strong closing power now that you're able to have more draw cards. Azurite Sea, Popsicle, Visions of the Future to scry, Hiram to draw, and then just Lucky Dime to close games out, right? And red-blue or red-purple still has no item removal, right? So it's in an interesting spot for sure. Yeah, let me know what you think if you'd build a deck this way or not. Yeah, I think that, man, this deck just seems, I don't want to say unstoppable, but it just seems like it's in a really good spot. Like the cost curve here also evens out quite nicely. You know, you have a lot of very low to the ground cards that you're able to play and get a lot of utility off of. Quite a contrast to how you used to play this deck in sets like 2, 3, 4, where you had a lot of top end and a lot of uninkables, like I was saying. Now you're able to play more of these stable cards that allow you to play the game early on and stabilize against other decks, and then scry and fish for draw through your deck in order to get to your top end threats as you need them, right? So it's a very versatile deck, one of the decks that I think are definitely going to be a meta contender. It's going to be interesting to see this Maui in action. You know, it has evasive, so even when it challenges, it's going to be hard to remove. It's not susceptible to things like Medusa, Brawls, etc., obviously. It is susceptible to World's Greatest Criminal Mind and Zeus's, but, you know, yeah, Zeus would take it out, right, because 5 damage. But doubles Let the Storm Rage On, Strength of the Raging Fire, needs like 3 characters on board to double swing with Ursula, Deceiver of All. Like, this is going to be a tough card to out once this hits the board. You know, it just has too many good abilities. Like, it just seems like a really good card in my opinion. Yes, it's a little slow, But again, if you can mitigate that with like Vitalosphere, it's just like even more value. And then even more broken, like even if you drop this and you have like the Shield of Virtue or something on board, like just challenging multiple things, it just seems really, really strong. Yeah, it's red got a really good legendary here, the first one I think since Maleficent Dragon from set 1. No, what am I saying? This Sisu is also obviously very good, but yeah. Anyways, I rambled on enough. Hopefully I'll be able to post some gameplay for you guys with this deck, but this video I think warranted a standalone deck profile just because yeah, it just seems like this deck can answer everything coming in the metagame right now. Pete, the Steel Pete that prevents you from playing actions is something that can hurt for sure. But again, you play so many, like you just play items if you can't play actions, right? Like you don't even play that many actions, 15, and you play 17 items. Like the deck is crazy. Yeah, 46 46 inkables, only 15 on inkables, right? And you can still ink some of your uninkables if you want with the Fishbone. Yeah, it just seems really, really strong. Yeah, anyways, guys, let's wrap this up. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, Quantum is out.